Dear human, dear soul, I welcome you to my podcast series, Conversations with the Universe. Since a near-death experience, I have the gift to communicate with the subtle energies of the cosmos. This happens in a form of deep meditation, where I ask certain entities of the other world to interact with me. As one of the first beyond contacts, my old friend and teacher, friend of the Native Americans, appeared to me. And it is now a great pleasure for me to bring you these discussions as a supplement to the books in this way. So, my dear friend and teacher, I'm ready for the next session. I'm curious where you're going to take me today.
We will now visit the vastness of the lowest area with our mind. The lowest area of the lightless areas is the darkest and heaviest area.
Oh dear.
Heavy in the sense of the forces that are found there.
What do you mean by forces found there? We are definitely talking about soul fractions again. That means one identifies these soul fractions. Or what makes up these fragments of souls that are located at this lowest level, this bottom area? And above all, what does it look like
Subtitles
there?
by Stephanie Geigers. If you imagine heavy, unconscious appearing particles, then you start to understand how this area is structured.
Yes.
Here, therefore, there is not only hopelessness and emptiness, but also heavy in the energy fields of soul fragments.
Oh my.
If you now focus your mind on this area, you will encounter a completely different energy than before.
I'm trying. One moment.
Go through the wall of fields again and move, if you can, further and further.
Okay, that's true. I notice it. It's getting tough, extremely tough, very tough. My heart is hurting again. It's getting harder. Really uncomfortable. It's really pulling downwards. What interests me now, though, is that this energy is something I know from the incarnated state. I already know from the attraction I feel in the Earth's magnetic field. Why is there such a feeling in the subtle world?
Very nice. You recognize that? It's this heaviness that I've named. So we find darkness, despair, emptiness, meaninglessness, slowness, which almost seems lifeless, and heavy.
And I feel sadness.
Yes. She's also a vibration of this level and the energies in it.
Ooh.
But what is most remarkable about all these characteristics of the area is the solidity is almost impenetrable. Almost as if sticking together, the soul fragments here seem solid. And yet, it's still different. Very different than you know it in physicality. After all, this is a subtle area, and such firmness in the subtle area, it's still more subtle than your physical world, where you are right now. My information that I have about this area is very diverse. Some entities informed me that there is no longer any consciousness in this area. In this view, they are unconscious. But others informed me that the part of the souls which is located here, only in the frequency of a kind of storage is located. They are indeed still filled with consciousness, but in a very, very sleepy state.
Perceive many souls in the body, so the souls themselves, we don't talk. Not about fractions, which often warn very sleepily. Unconscious, almost sleepy soul energy.
Yes, that's correct. But still, you are very busy with attentions in different directions. These soul fragments are in only one state, without distractions, without any kind of concentration on anything. They are exclusively like that. What I want to say is that you may carry these fractions in you, but ultimately you are not made up of just such energy. This energy is there, but that's just it.
So, okay, now I'm even more focused in this area with my attention. It's like everything inside me is tensing up and almost taking my breath away. Everything is pulling together so intensely. It almost hurts. As if my body would shrink to the size of a mouse. And yes, it's terribly hard. As if I had 1,000 kilos of lead hanging on my soul. Really hard. It's terrible, giving this some sort of rating.
My perception of the forces in this area is very similar. But I also feel anger.
Anger? You really?
Yes. Anger about what happened.
But anger has a little more.
It has to do with consciousness, right? Anger is a certain emotionality and also creates a kind of power condensation. But I don't find the description quite accurate. In any case, it's a different kind, a slightly more aggressive form of despair. If you remember the energies from the first level of the lightless area, there was no such emotionality there. Here, perceived in distance and separation, there seems to be emotions like anger and grief as well. Interesting that you can still perceive such frequencies.
Bye.
It's so terribly uncomfortable.
When I travel there with my spirit and emulate that, it's really as if I'm about to feel sick, as if I'm dizzy. I can't do it. Don't breathe, don't exist. Very, very uncomfortable. Insanity. And now I'm getting a headache. It's terribly uncomfortable.
Yes, very well recognized, dear student.
I need to think a bit more. To redirect when the energies in this area seem to be glued together, so solidified. Then they must perceive each other once more.
No, must, dear. Certainly not necessary.
Subtitles by the Amor
And without power, with very, very little consciousness, which is additionally clouded, close to the state of unconsciousness, they do not perceive each other.
Okay. But even if they don't perceive each other, their fields must energetically sense each other.
Why? Because they have so little power.
It's interesting that there is a realm in the subtlety that is similar to the coarse perception. I wouldn't have thought that. Is this frequency range very close to our terrestrial frequency?
No, not at all, not at all. All these areas cannot be compared with earthly conditions. It remains out of body in every respect.
So no magnetism or anything like that, no? No geomaterials whatsoever? Absolutely nothing that shapes or influences these fields in any other way, and not even they themselves create some kind environment or a component?
No, not at all.
So far I find it to be the most unpleasant area. Does that mean that's where the heavy energies come in? So you could say the melancholics.
Yes, and I would even describe it differently. The fractions of the soul, what nonsense. Sense, lifelessness, and some even feel self-abandonment.
Oh man, yeah, that's actually terribly sad. Self-sacrifice, it's like, these are the parts that would prefer to kill themselves. So, energies that want to destroy themselves.
That's how it is.
That's terrible. But tell me, this leads me to the question whether this is even possible. We have found in the higher frequency ranges that it is where most of the light is, which then somewhat gives up its individuality when they stretch to a lone soul, i.e. expand. And we have found out that soul seeds, as long as they do not yet possess the necessary parameters of purity, can decide at any time to completely give up their individuality again. About how? To merge back into the sea of energy of their mother soul. What's the situation now? In the higher frequency ranges, everything became increasingly stretchy, flexible, bright, and open. So long, until the energy is not always, but has also become a lone soul. Here it is getting increasingly solid and always tighter, heavier. In the higher frequency ranges, souls have dedicated their free will energy and can create a state. Can create a new state. These energies can now be here below. Also decide to contract to the point of losing all consciousness. Exactly the opposite of the other state in the higher levels. Does it work? No. That's interesting. Why can't that be?
Because energy cannot vanish. These forces which linger there must continue to evolve. They can't transform the laws in which all energy always remains, but they can change themselves.
Yes. Madness. I understand their disaster. They really don't want to be anymore. At least that's how they feel. They have so little energy that they can't perceive any existence power, joy of being, or any sense in the way of being at all. And they maybe don't even have the energy to realize that you just need to convert it.
When you have understood the cosmos, so you know, there's always a flame of consciousness in the energies. The death of consciousness isn't really possible. Unconsciousness does not mean total loss of consciousness, but similar to in your bodies, a kind of fogging and contamination of energy. I understand. So these soul fragments here are the dirtiest parts. But how do they get back in? We will discuss this separately in the next chapters. Just remember one thing. Here are the most powerless and unconscious soul fragments on this journey. But they can all also wander again and again. The work of the sails is crucial.
Ah, you mean when the actual soul, the home of these soul fragments, starts to cleansing. Then it also does something with the soul fragments. That's how it is. I understand. I understand the approach, then we go there. Another time go deeper. I understand. But I wanted to ask again, do we now have 6 or 7 of these lower frequency ranges? 7, right? But I only counted 6.
If you regard the wall as an area, there are 7.
And the wall is an area?
But of course.
No.
It's a very important area of different frequency divisions.
Then the wall is actually the 4th plane, the 4th area. That's how it is. Oh, but it's not as big as a whole plane.
But it's a characteristic of the frequency.
Yes, true, makes sense.
Your perception of the wall is exactly right. And it's powerful and very far.
Subtitled by the Mark
This results in a kind of area. In this area itself, however, there are no soul fragments. It is an independent area. A transition.
Yes, that makes sense. We didn't notice the transitions when we switched from one area to another. There are no such clear material differences, but definitely here. So I call it a wall. It's just my perception.
Yes, we all perceive it as kind of a wall, an energy wall.
Have you ever wondered why it exists? But I would be interested, like, why do we actually need an energy wall?
I think it's a kind of protection and connection at the same time. Through this wall, the planes are connected with each other, which are so materially different in themselves that perhaps they actually wouldn't be. Without this wall...
That's an interesting approach. It kind of represents a connecting level.
I also perceive them as a sort of bridge. although they separate.
If we consider the plane of the deceased as one, even though it is actually two areas, then today I am perceiving deceased, white sphere, white brotherhood, 4, 5, 6, and the plane of the masters of light. That would be the 7th. After that comes mother, soul, and source. So I have 7 plus 2.
That's how it
and
is.
when I look down into the lower frequency ranges, I now have 7. If I also count the energetic wall as the transition level.
Yes.
So we come more or less to the 7 upper heavens and the 7 lower heavens. At least some fairy tales describe it that way in human religions.
Funny description. Yes. But if you want to compare it like that, yes, sure. I don't like such descriptions and evaluations very much, as you know.
I know. But someone started to stun people with these stories. And for example, like for small children, there were stories about the sky, hell, purgatory, and who knows what all is written. I have to keep looking at where people's beliefs are in order to better enlighten them. Do you understand?
I understand.
Speaking of purgatory, which of these areas was purgatory, if we can put it that way?
It's
okay,
good.
You're shaking your head. You don't like that, do you?
No,
okay,
dear.
yes.
So let's put it this way. Not in this book, right? We have already used such terminologies to bring better understanding to other topics. But in such exploratory and pure perspectives, these images have no place, Sylvia. Please always stay in your neutrality without judgments. Do you believe you can do that? This is very important to me. And that's generally very important. Get out of these false stories with the wrong faith images, with the wrong interpretations. Out. The approaches may often seem similar, but the implementation has been passed on so wrongly and interpreted so wrongly that it is one of the most important tasks of this work to eliminate these. Do you understand me? To eliminate, Sylvia, completely eliminate, and to remove, as if they never existed. We must these false and distorted information correct to what is, no more and no less.
Yes.
And that it's the purpose and meaning of this work.
I know you're right, okay. I want to quickly revisit the level, the area we are currently in, the lowest of the low. This deep, lower frequency range where I am already feeling extremely dizzy again. It's very uncomfortable and terrible there. But I have to ask the question. I apologize. I have to, because if you want to clarify, dear friend, then you also have to, in the name of enlightenment. Some questions just want to be answered, even if you may not like it. But people describe the lower areas as hell. They describe that there's a kind of consciousness there. This consciousness they call Lucifer, devil. I have at my entire research I haven't even roughly come across such consciousness here that could fit this fairy tale image. I can imagine that people mean by it, and I shape it into a single question. Could it be that you simply mean all the energy fields of these 7 energy-less levels, and consequently believe that this overall energetics is a kind of, could possess a collective consciousness, which is then referred to in personified form as Lucifer? Subtitles by Stephanie Geiges.
Yes, very smart question.
Subtitles by the
And please know, I am never mad at you for the way you ask. You understand me? Yes. You ask very precisely, detailed and lovingly meant. You really want to create deep understanding? That's honorable. And I rate it at best as very positive. However, Now, to answer your question, I also suspect that these people who knew about the lower frequency ranges, but then distorted it, those who believe or believed in the formation of such a unified consciousness. But it's just not possible, Sylvia. It's
Not possible.
It is a fairy tale picture for children. Until next time, because purely in terms of energy, these energy fields have no connection to each other. They are in very weak energy states and are very dirty and unconscious. Even the fields, for example, that find each other in the plane of teaching into a kind of group formation can never develop a single new large consciousness. That is simply not possible. Because the actual home of these soul fragments are their souls. There should be a merger of all these broken souls to form these fragments into something. But this is getting very complicated and totally distracting. It's pure fantasy. My answer is quite clear. In these levels, there is no independent, separate consciousness of all energies together, which creates such negations or despair, or even creates personifications. How they are portrayed by people in these fairy tale images of the unconscious. It is being described.
Sure thing. In a nutshell, the cosmos is fueled by the source, and there is frequency ranges where there is not always that much energy. But even the frequency, these frequency ranges, certain energies actually house soul fragments, but a second consciousness, a separate large consciousness of the dark, of the less luminous levels. It cannot even exist, because such a separation of the actual consciousness from the source does not exist at all.
Do you allow me a joke?
As far as I'm concerned.
Lucifer will forgive us for his non-existence, but to return to your sentence. Very well put, my dear, that's exactly how it is. The source is the power of all being, and from it, these energies move into different frequency ranges in various ways. But a decoupling, a separation of energies from the cycle, and thus an independent creation. It's not possible. I have seen, heard, and experienced nothing of it in our planes. Even the darkest, most unconscious, and heaviest parts of energy are ultimately still part of the primal source and connected to it in different ways. An independent consciousness that seems separated from this source and unfolds separated consciousness. It's not possible.
Interesting that people still create such powerful images. I mean, that's quite remarkable. One might now ask, if it doesn't exist at all, why is it so present in the human world?
I don't know, dear. Maybe because they like to see the good fight with evil. Because this is the theater of their lives. Because they carry real peace and fulfillment through various emotions. Unfortunately, not within themselves. Because you live in a dual perception. And this duality can be understood more clearly through such stories. Maybe it's like that. I don't really have an answer.
All right. I get it. Do you want to say something conclusive about this area now? No. Then I thank you once again very much for this very interesting session. And I'm looking forward to the next section. It will be the organic section. And we will, for example, we could talk about aura and astral bodies next. I'm really excited. Thank you. Thank you. Love.
I thank you, Lofe.